All right, so today we're going to break down some priceless advice from some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And look, these aren't just little tips. These are hard-won lessons that could literally change your entire path forward. So let's just dive right in with the big question.
I mean, that's the question, right? It's what keeps people up at night, what fuels those big, ambitious dreams. What is the secret sauce? Is there some magic formula for that kind of insane success?
Well, the truth is, there's no single magic bullet. It's just not that simple. Instead, what these leaders really offer us is a map, a kind of guide through the different phases of the entrepreneurial journey. From that very first little spark of an idea, all the way to building something that lasts.
And think about it. Learning from people who've already been down that road, that's not just helpful. It can literally help you skip a decade of painful trial and error. That's why the most important thing you can do right now is just listen.
Okay, so phase one. It all starts with an idea. But, how do you even find a great one? And maybe even more important, how do you know if it's actually any good? Let's start right there.
So our first piece of advice comes from James Altucher. He's an investor, a best-selling author, and he's tackling a problem that every single creative person faces, that blank page, that feeling of being completely, totally out of ideas.
His solution is actually brilliantly simple. He says you need to treat your brain like a muscle by building what he calls an idea machine habit. It's just 3 steps: carry a notebook everywhere you go, write down ideas as they pop into your head, and then, this is key, review those notes often to see what new connections you can make. Altucher swears that if you do this every day for 6 months, you'll train your brain to become a machine that just constantly churns out new concepts.
Okay, so you've got an idea. Now what? Well, Paul Graham, the guy who founded the legendary startup incubator Y Combinator, has seen literally thousands of companies succeed and fail. And he points to one single fatal flaw that sinks most of them right from the start.
And here it is. The #1 killer of startups is building something nobody actually wants. So many founders fall in love with their own idea. They just assume everyone else will get it, but they totally fail to check in with what the customer's reality is. They're not solving a real problem.
So how do you avoid that trap? This is where Leah Busque, the founder of TaskRabbit, comes in. She's got a super practical, grounded way to test your idea without betting the farm.
Now, what I love about this is how simple it is. Don't go build some massive, complex platform. Just start with one task. For one customer, one small thing you can do all by yourself. The feedback you get from that very first real-world interaction, that's more valuable than any fancy business plan you could ever write.
Okay, so your idea is validated. People actually want it. Now for the really hard part, execution. Let's move into phase 2 and talk about how to turn that concept into something real.
When Drew Houston was starting Dropbox, he had this classic chicken and egg problem. He needed money to build the product, right? But he needed a product to get the money. His solution was just incredibly clever.
So instead of trying to show off some buggy, half-finished version, he made a simple demo video. That's it. But it showed the magic of what Dropbox would do, seamlessly syncing your files. It made the whole vision feel real, like it was already there, and it got investors and users totally excited before the final code was even written. Next up, Brian Chesky from Airbnb has some advice for building a global company that sounds, well, kind of backwards. He says you need to think incredibly small. Seriously, forget about scaling to 1 million users. Just obsess over user number 1. Manually, by hand, create the most perfect, amazing, unforgettable experience for that one person. Why? Because that process teaches you exactly what perfect even looks like. Once you've nailed the experience for one, then you have a blueprint you can use to scale. All right, your idea is solid, the product is taking shape, but you're going to realize very quickly that a great vision needs a great team to make it happen. You just can't do it alone. And this is where leadership becomes absolutely crucial. When you're talking about building teams, almost nobody has a better track record than Mark Andreessen, co-founder of the legendary venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. When he's looking at a startup team, he's looking for 2 very specific things. So yeah, he looks for talent, of course, but what he values even more is drive, that relentless, gritty determination to just overcome any obstacle. Andreessen's logic is pretty simple. A talented person who doesn't have drive will quit when things get hard, but a driven person, they will find a way to win no matter what you throw at them. It's such a simple definition, right? But it's something we forget all the time. At its very core, a company isn't a product, it's not a logo, it's not a brand, it's just people. And this simple idea is the entire foundation of Sir Richard Branson's leadership philosophy.
For Branson, leadership isn't about barking orders. It's about creating an environment where your people can actually thrive. And it all starts with listening, with understanding what they need, and then motivating them to be the very best version of themselves.
And finally, building something that really matters. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It can take decades. This last phase is all about the personal mindset you need to actually endure the journey and finish the race.
Emmett Shear, the co-founder of Twitch, is really blunt about this. He stresses 3 things. First, you have to genuinely love what you're doing. And second, you have to take care of your physical and your mental health. The journey is just too long and too hard to survive on passion alone if you're burning yourself out. Self-care isn't a luxury, it's a requirement for success.
So we've gone through the idea, the build, the team, and the mindset. We've heard from some of the smartest people in business. But advice is completely useless if you don't do anything with it.
So I'm going to leave you with this one question. Forget trying to do everything at once. Just based on everything we've talked about, what is the one single small thing you can do tomorrow to start your own journey? Maybe it's just buying a notebook. Maybe it's talking to one potential customer. That's where the journey begins.